Alright. Let's jump right in. I leave the school. The left side of my neck hurts slightly, almost as if I were scratched by someone, or something. I don't have anything to do, so I'll go straight home or take a detour. I don't know where he would go. Although, he's supposed to run into Arcueid pretty soon, I think, right? So I have to imagine... But is it... Oh, man. Let's save. Even though we just booted up this file, so there's no reason to. But... Okay. Let's take a detour. Because I'm assuming he'll... Because, like, maybe he'll go to the city and meet Arcueid and do... Or not meet Arcueid, but, like, do the killing thing. And then we'll start the route. Let's see. I'll stop by somewhere else on my way home. It's not that I don't want to go back. It's just going to take some time to get used to that luxurious mansion. Maybe I'll visit Arihiko's house, or swing by the bookstore in the station. Wherever I end up going, so long as I keep it under an hour, I ought to be able to make it home before curfew. Dude, if I run into Noel again, I'm gonna lose my mind. The back of my neck feels strangely hot. It's becoming swollen and numb. I wonder if that's the reason. I feel like I've lost track of where I was going. The night spreads itself over the city like spilled water. The hustle and bustle is incomparable to that of the morning. The headlights of cars pass by. Crowds of people are disgorged and then swallowed up again by the station. There aren't many school uniforms to be seen now. The people striding up and down the street are wearing all manner of clothing. I stand up from my seat on the bench. It's about time I get going. Despite having no reason to go there, I turn and head downtown. I duck into a side street off the main drag. It's less a street than it is a blind spot between the buildings. There's nobody else here. No noise. No signs of life. There's only a rustling sound emanating from deep within. The light from the vending machine is blinding. The superfluous trappings of modern civilization, incongruous with this place. They're too dazzling, so I put them behind me. I proceed into the gloomier, more fitting darkness of the night. Toward a narrower, more secluded darkness. I put a hand on the rusty iron fence. If I open it and go deep enough, I'm sure I'll find. Hey, you there. Huh? I stop in my tracks. I've returned to my senses, but I'm still slightly dizzy. I don't know what's going on. Why did I come to this place? Why was I trying to continue on into the depths? Sorry, do you have 100 yen on you? When I turn around, I see an unfamiliar girl in front of the vending machine. She's standing there in a way that screams, I've been trying to buy some juice, but I'm stuck without any change. Perhaps because I felt guilty about trying to go deeper into the alleyway, I just go with the flow and hand over 100 yen. Thanks. I appreciate it. She inserts the 100 yen into the vending machine and presses the button. The girl takes out the can that the machine dropped. She frowns, looking disappointed. You must be rather carefree to be taking a walk at this time of night. Isn't there anyone at home waiting for you? Huh? Yeah. I look at my phone. The clock mercilessly reports that it's 7:40. Crap. I only have 20 minutes left before curfew. Panicking, I start to dash out of the alleyway. And then... Hold on a second. She stops me again. What? I'm sorry, but I have to hurry. She throws the can of juice at me. Flustered, I manage to catch it. But isn't this the one that she bought? Here, take it. Why? I can't stand that flavor. Sounding displeased, she briskly walks past me. No, this isn't the time for me to be standing here in shock. I need to get a move on, too. I break into a run. Failing to make it back by curfew from day one would be disastrous, not just as an older brother, but as a human being. No matter what it takes, I need to get back home to the mansion before the family head's lighting strikes me down. Or lightning, rather. Oh, they should have added like a... That would have been funny. I'm home! I open and close the front door as quietly as I can, and discreetly enter the lobby, announcing my return in a voice that is neither too loud nor too quiet. The time was 8 o'clock, 1 minute ago. I ran as fast as I could from the front of the station, and just barely made it in time. But honestly, it was so hard that I feel like throwing up. That slope is too much for my heart. It was fine on the way to school because it was downhill, but I forgot that it would be uphill on the way back. Welcome home, Shiki-sama. I know you are tired, but before you return to your room, please come to the office. Akiha-sama would like to have a word with you. The office, is it? If Akiha's taking the trouble to call me into her office, she must really be in a foul mood. You took a detour because you had money to spare. As punishment, I will be reducing your monthly allowance by about 20%. And there you have it. My sentence was handed down the instant I entered her office. I didn't even have a chance to plead my case. I hadn't thought about that. I guess I'll be receiving my monthly allowance from Akiha from now on. And to think it's already been reduced. Rejoice, father. Akiha grew up Akiha grew up to be a much stricter master than you. But that's not true, is it? I came back before curfew, remember? Well, I didn't make it back before sunset, but... Oh, I'm shocked. So you were aware that you made a promise to me. In that case, why did you not keep it? Well, I suppose that I forgot. Nissan, I forgot to tell you something as well. As an added punishment, you will not have dinner tonight. What? What a tyrant. If she's being this harsh, even though I managed to make it back on time, I shudder to think what would have happened if Tonoshiki had broken the curfew. I trudge across the lobby, heading for my room. I protested to the end of the family. I protested to the head of the family, but could not undo the punishment of taking away my dinner. On the other hand, my allowance was only cut by 10%. It was a major victory in terms of a brother's dignity. Shiki-san! Shiki-san! Kohaku-san? As I'm on my way back to my room, Kohaku-san calls out. She's gonna give me some food, isn't she? Kohaku-san calls out to me. She's hiding in one of the nooks on the corridor, addressing me conspiratorially in much the same way as she did this morning. Come on, that's no good. You should have come home on time today at least. After all, she came back incredibly early, believing that you'd listen to what you were told, if only for the first day. Wait, who came back? Well, obviously that's... No, you know what? Never mind. In any case, as a servant, I cannot overlook the fact that you did not have dinner. As such, I prepared a light meal for you in your room. Although it's just a rice ball and some miso soup. What a thoughtful maid she is. And this is on top of her returning my phone this morning. To think she'd go this far for me, even though she's the one who'd be on the hook for it if Akiha found out. Is this really okay? It'd be a huge help, but... Of course! This is about your health, after all. Besides, Hisui-chan has also agreed to this. Even if Akiha-sama finds out, I'm sure she'll forgive us if we both apologize. I see. That girl also. Despite appearances, she looked out for me. It's hard to get a read on her because she doesn't really let her emotions show, but it seems that Hisui also felt bad about my no-dinner treatment. Shiki-san, her name is not that girl, it's Hisui-chan. Yeah, I know. But since I don't know her all that well yet, I feel bad if I just used her name so casually. No, you shouldn't do that. That's too cruel. She may not look it, but Hisui-chan is very kind. So please, think nothing of it and call her by her first name as if she were family. Kohaku-san is staring straight at me. She's right. It'd be difficult for Hisui if I continue to act like a stranger. I'm sure she's just as concerned about me as Kohaku-san right now, so I should try to relax around her a bit more. I understand. From now on, no matter what happens, I'll call her Hisui... No, saying Chan is a bit too embarrassing. I'll just call her Hisui. Please do. It would be much appreciated. After that, Kohaku-san goes downstairs. I say a silent prayer to my savior, the nightingale of the Tohno residence, and return to my room. Rice balls, huh? Kohaku-san made them, so they must be pretty tasty. That's my ice melting. Phew, that was a nice bath. I'd wolfed down the rice balls, specially made by Kohaku-san. After that, Hisui came by to tell me the bath was ready. By the time I'd come back from my bath, it's 9 o'clock in the evening. It's a bit too early to go to bed. I've nothing at hand to read other than a textbook. I'm not even that tired today. Rather than wasting time, I decide to visit Akiha, visit Kohaku, or rest. Well, I don't know, cause like Akiha was a lot more of a like straight, like a little more like obvious about how she felt than this one. I'm pretty sure she's the same character here, but she's a lot thornier, you know? She's a lot more strict in this one. I'm feeling the consequences of my choices a bit more here than I was in the previous one. She had like the same level of bark, but she never really did anything in most of the routes regarding like any of the stuff that Shiki did. She'd just be like, stop going out at night. Like, just stop, please. She wouldn't actually punish you. And then Kohaku is, like, a lot more fun. Like, more fun than in this one than she was before. And she was already pretty fun. But I want to see if I can patch things up with Akiha, so we'll go visit her. I've already offended Akiha today. This isn't to make up for it, but I want to have a light-hearted chat to ease the feeling of distance, or rather, alleviate the spiky wall that stands between us. However, the timing is important. It wouldn't be appropriate to visit a girl's room out of the blue, even if she is your sister. I'm not even sure where her room is in the first place. I think it's at the end of the east wing. I thought we were going to the living room. I'll have to ask Hisui or Kohaku-san the next time I see them. For now, right. I'll go drop by the living room. Akiha supposedly likes to relax there after dinner, so I might be able to catch her there. Who is this? Oh, it's Psyche? Okay. Thanks for the, Shiki-kun. So it's gotta be him, right? Oh. I can't believe it's been a full day since we last met, Shiki-kun. Now that you've spent the night here, is it starting to sink in that you're back at the Tohno residence? Yeah, there he is. This fucking guy. I stifle the urge to cry out in surprise. That mysterious man from yesterday, the bandaged monster, Psyche Goto, is here in the living room. Excuse me. Good evening. Psyche Goto-san, right? Just call me Psyche. A full name is something used only by those worthy of recognition. With a smile laced with mockery, Psyche replies. I'm a little surprised. A visit at this hour? Without rising to the bait, I respond with a generality. I don't know anything about him yet. I should get to know him first, and then figure out how to answer. At this hour? Ah, it's before lights out, isn't it? It's one of the bad traditions left by Maki Hisashi. Switching off the lights of the mansion before the clock strikes midnight and forcing the residents to sleep. He hated the night, or more accurately, he hated the things that occur during the night. The construction of this Western-style building is wonderful, as is the history of the land it rests on, but I'm not in favor of that rule. The head of the Tohno family is not supposed to turn away from the night. What's wrong with that? It's much better than making noise all night. I have my own problems with the early curfew, but I couldn't stop myself from snapping back at him. He insulted Makihisa, but to me, it feels like Akiha is being insulted as the successor of the Tohno family. Did I offend you? Splendid. It seems like you know your place around here. Even though you were disowned, you still defend your father's honor. It seems like Maki Hisashi had a good son. I'm asking you what you're doing here at such an absurd hour. It's not absurd at all. I'm returning to my own home after a long day at work. Isn't that a very natural routine? Now I'm confused. I'm returning to my own home. Is he saying that he lives here? But yesterday, he definitely said he wasn't a relative of the Tohno family. I'm sorry. That was a bit of a hasty reply. I am an outsider. I've been given a room to stay in, but I'm no more than a guest. For now, anyway. With a chuckle, Psyche gets up off the sofa. He seems to be planning to leave the living room. I'm only here tonight to collect some materials from my room, Shiki-kun. I lied when I said that I finished my work. The development of the city of Soya is only just beginning. There remain a great number of matters that must be taken care of. Tonight, I'll be working the night shift. That is what I was criticizing Maki Hisashi for. There is no day or night in modern business. It's a stupid policy to just wait for morning when night falls. If you keep running the company in the same old-fashioned way, you'll only cause headaches for the people who take over for you. Psyche exits the living room. Not long after, I hear Kohaku-san's voice coming from the lobby. She's probably escorting the guest to the door. Taking over the company. I'm not sure what the relationship was between Psyche Goto and my old man, but judging by how he spoke, I doubt it was particularly amicable. I feel an inexpressible sense of unease. I'll leave the chat with Akiha for another time. I decide to go back to my room and rest quietly tonight. It's 10 o'clock. The lights turn themselves off automatically, without me having to do anything. It seems like all the lights, except for those in the office, are programmed to switch off at this hour. You can turn any of them on again just by flicking the switch, but doing so seems to be reserved for emergency situations. If I use the table lamp provided, people will probably notice that I'm staying up late. On top of that, leaving a room after 10 o'clock is expressly forbidden. Maybe I could smuggle in a stand light. These days, there are foldable lamps the size of a mobile phone. I could stay up as long as I want after lights out. Well, not that I even need to. Going to sleep at night is the natural course of action. If it's exam period, surely they'll give me more time to study before bedtime. I change into the provided nightwear and crawl into bed. Ever since the accident, I've been reluctant to lie down like this. I didn't want to put myself in a comfortable position, especially in a soft bed. Back when I was at the Arima house, it used to drive Keiko-san up the wall. She said that although I was a deep sleeper, I wasn't a child who would fall asleep on my own. Okay, time to sleep. I assure myself that I can obviously fall asleep. I take off my glasses and close my eyes. It was only when I was a child that I had trouble sleeping. Now, if I close my eyes just like this, I can fall asleep just like everyone else. Ooh, wait, what? Is it your boy? I thought he was Sir not appearing in this game. Oh shit. Like a wave, I hear something crying out. I'm really glad I don't have to make the noise anymore. It just has a sound effect. That's really awesome. It's the howl of an animal. It's shrill, like that of a wild dog. It's ringing in my eardrums. Is it howling at the moon? An unpleasant sensation. The roar of this beast is giving me a headache. The sound does not stop. Like a bullet fired into my skull. The echoes ricochet around inside. Enough. Just shut up already. I open my eyes and put on my glasses. I can still hear the dog howling outside my window. The clock has just struck 11. It's more than just disturbing my sleep. Damn. What the hell is with that noise? I can hear the dog's howl coming from all the way outside the mansion. If this keeps up, I'm not gonna get any sleep. I guess I gotta go check it out. Even if I called the police and told them some dog was being too noisy, I doubt they'd come. I get out of bed and change back into my school uniform. I'm sure that Akiha and the others are having trouble sleeping as well. I'm the only man in the mansion, so I guess it falls to me to find out what's going on out there. Well, I guess, isn't Psyche here too, or am I wrong about that? I leave the mansion. Nothing moves, as though the night is frozen over. The moon is hidden behind the clouds. Even the light from the street lamps appear to have congealed, like paint drops on the canvas. Oddly enough, the howling sounds quieter now that I'm out here. Maybe it's just starting to die down. Either way, it doesn't matter much. The noise is more painful to my mind and eyes than do my... Wait, what? The noise is more painful to my mind and eyes than to my ears. Okay, there we go. Interesting. Just listening to it makes my heart pound so fast that I start to feel sick. Shut up. My legs feel heavy as I start walking. I start to lose feeling in my fingertips. Suddenly, I notice that my breath is white. The area around the mansion has fallen even quieter. It feels as if everything has ceased to exist. In this frozen world, my shadow is the only thing that moves. I don't know why I'm so thirsty. The meandering road next to the tall walls around the mansion stretches on endlessly into the night. Warming my numb fingers with my breath, I walk in the direction of where the dogs are probably gathered. Huh? My thoughts come to a halt. In the distance, under a street light, I see something. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. Something that by all rights I should never see. An impossible sight. A melting dog. What is that? A long blade pointed at it. What is that? A melted howl. What is that? A long blade that pierces. What is that? It screams as if it had gone mad. A gale force scream. After the sound that tore my eardrums had passed, there were no more howls. Not even a single trace of the dog remains. As if it had never existed in the first place. It faded away without a trace. So, it's an illusion. Is what I'm seeing now a hallucination or a dream? Then, is that an illusion too? There, under the streetlight that slices through the darkness, stands a figure I can't comprehend. Is that a coat? The figure wearing a thick coat doesn't seem to notice me as I stand stock still. I'm thirsty. My whole body is sweating. The night air sticks to my skin. It's not like anything is wrong with me, but everything feels heavy, like I'm at the bottom of the ocean. I hear the sounds of a distant, foreign country. I'm struck by a dizziness that almost knocks me unconscious. I put all my strength into to my staggering legs and manage to stay on my feet. And then... all I see before me is the usual quiet road. I breathe a sigh of relief, my lungs greedily taking in the air. I didn't realize it, but I hadn't been breathing properly since I left the main gate. I don't hear them howling anymore. I leave the illusory fever dream that I just witnessed behind me. I'm back in my room. I didn't notice any signs that Akiya or the others were awake. It seems like I was the only one who couldn't stand that dog's howling. What was that? My head still hurts. Why am I shaking? My fingers are trembling. My whole body is shaking, and my back feels cold. Metaphorically speaking, it's like someone ripped out my spinal cord and put a pillar of ice in its place. I feel dizzy and lightheaded. I wonder if it's the usual anemia. I feel like my consciousness is being thrown to the ground, brain and all. As this is going on, I notice something unsettling. Even though I'm wearing my glasses, I can still see those lines. My eyeballs can't take the nausea that's been building up. It's a reaction to the fact that I've been trying not to see them for the last 7 years. My mind can't bear this scene. I feel sick, combined with the dizziness from my anemia. I feel like I'm about to throw up at any moment. No way. What the hell's going on? I really don't know. But as long as I keep my eyes open, I can't help but see the lines. This is a bad dream. I managed to fall onto my bed. Yeah, in that case, I should just go to sleep. It's the quickest way to deny what I've seen. I can't even move my body like I want to. For now, I'm just going to stay like this, like a corpse. I just need to go to sleep, like a puppet with broken strings. Day 3. Inversion Impulse. Sensei once told me something. She said that the things my eyes can see are the lines along which things can easily come apart. To use the body as an analogy, they're like the joints prone to fracturing, or soft eyeballs. If I put my blade in and slice through them, no force is required. There's no friction, and they don't put up any resistance. You can cut through anything this way. They aren't limited to the human body either. These lines appear equally on everything I can see, whether it be vegetable, animal, or mineral. Listen carefully, Shiki. All things are destined to break. So long as something has a form, it can't escape from that fate, can it? In other words, if the world itself is also full of cracks, it wouldn't be that surprising if it fell apart one day as well. That is, so long as the Earth itself also has lines running across it. There's a chance that someday, for no real reason at all, the ground could split apart, and everything on it would be destroyed. At least, in the world I see, there's always that possibility. Excuse me. We humans are even more fragile. Injury and recovery, growing up and getting old, prosperity and decay. These are all processes that bring us closer to the end. When I understood the meaning of her words, gratitude for the glasses Sensei had given me welled up in my chest. I mean, it's a natural reaction. It's not a pleasant thought. But if I'd had to keep seeing those lines all the time, I wouldn't have been able to go on living. The lines along which things can easily break. A world where nothing is firmly bound. Even if you could see them, there isn't even a single thing to be gained from doing so. I awake from my reverie. Sensing the morning light on my closed eyelids, I keep my eyes closed as I run my hand over the nightstand. Huh? Where are my glasses? Feeling uneasy, I grope around the right-hand side of the bed just in case, and immediately find them. I usually keep them on the left-hand side, given how bad my headache was last night. I suppose it's not out of the question that I mix them up. I put on my glasses before opening my eyelids. If someone were watching, they may think it's a strange habit, but I like to avoid looking at the lines as much. If someone were watching, they may think it's a strange habit, but I like to avoid looking at the lines as much as possible. Good morning, Shiki-sama. Turning to face the source of the sound, I see a girl in a maid's uniform standing by the wall. She's so unobtrusive that I didn't even notice her, but it seems she's been there for a while. She must have come to wake me up so that I wouldn't oversleep, same as she did yesterday. Sorry. I shouldn't be surprised. Good morning, Hisui. Thank you for coming to wake me up. This is one of my duties. Please pay me no mind. Hisui solemnly bows. But as she does so, she suddenly stops moving and swiftly raises her hand. No, my duties do not include surprising you. I will make every effort not to startle you tomorrow. She's a maid with something subtly off about her, but I can't quite put my finger on it. She's able to perform her duties as a servant flawlessly, but I get the sense that she isn't really accustomed to socializing. No, I don't think you did anything wrong. It's my fault for still not being used to it. When I get out of bed, I realize that I'm wearing my pajamas. If I remember correctly, last night I changed into my school uniform because of the howling, and after I came back, I thought I collapsed straight into bed. That's weird. I thought I fell asleep in my uniform. That is correct. It would have been bad for your health if you stayed like that, so I asked Nasan to come and change into your pajamas. Hisui explains the situation as if it were nothing out of the ordinary. I see. She changed my clothes for me. Sleeping in your uniform won't necessarily make you sick, but it will make your uniform all wrinkled, and there's no denying that pajamas are more comfortable. That attention to detail is just what you'd expect from a wait a minute. Changed my clothes? I hurriedly examined my pants and underwear. The pants are from a brand new set of pajamas, and my underwear also seemed to be fresh off the rack. Hisui. Yes? What is it? I'm glad that you're concerned about me, but in the future, please do whatever you can to wake me up. Changing clothes is, something that I should be doing myself. I'm so embarrassed by what's happening. I can't help but avert my gaze. Hisui simply nods at me, her expression blank. Your school uniform is folded over there. Once you are dressed, please come to the living room. Normally I would have been woken up by that, but I must have been really tired last night. Dwelling on the past isn't going to change anything. I should get dressed quickly and have breakfast. My school uniform is neatly folded, and the shirt is crisply ironed. When I put my arm through the sleeve, it feels like it's brand new. Akiha and Kohaku-san are in the living room. Akiha seems to have already finished her breakfast and is elegantly enjoying some tea. Morning, both of you. Good morning, Shiki-san. Kohaku-san returns my greeting with a smile as brilliant as her white apron. Akiha, on the other hand, glances at me and says, You don't seem to be in much of a hurry this morning, Ni-san. I'm sure this isn't the case, but you're not mistaking today for a holiday, are you? It may be early in the morning, but she still isn't pulling any punches. Not in a hurry. It just turned 7. I have plenty of time. It only takes around half an hour to walk to school from here, so I'd say I got up early today, if anything. In other words, you barely have 10 minutes to eat breakfast? You're not a starving dog. You should take your time with a meal. She calls out my inadequacies with pinpoint precision. I've no choice but to acknowledge her formidable quick wit and supernatural reflexes. She's just like a flat wall constantly repelling the ball during tennis practice. I'm not going to say which part is the wall, though. Ni-san, were you about to say something strange just now? No, nothing. Really, nothing. Besides, what did you mean by, I'm not a dog, Akiha? Actually, that reminds me. Speaking of dogs, I need to ask about what happened last night. Hey, Akiha. About last night. Is it like that here every night? What? Like I said, I'm talking about last night. You and the others couldn't sleep either, right? I slept fine last night. What are you referring to? What do you mean, what am I referring to? I'm talking about that dog. What else? Some stray dog was barking its head off around 11 o'clock last night. Didn't you hear it? Akiha and Kohaku-san exchanged glances at each other, and then stare at me with a concerned look in their eyes. I can't believe this. They're acting like they think I'm some sort of sleepwalker. Fine, I won't ask you. Kohaku-san, it was making a real racket outside last night, wasn't it? It doesn't ring any bells. It's true that it was windy last night, but the only unusual thing we found during midnight patrol was that you were asleep on top of your bed in your uniform. Oh, yeah, about that. I'll be more careful from now on. What? Did something happen, Kohaku? Oh no, nothing major. Shiki-san had just tossed and turned a bit in bed, that's all. With a smile on her face, Kohaku-san dodges Akiha's question. Getting dry-mouthed here. Did neither of you really notice anything? Some stray dog was barking for almost half an hour last night. Woof, woof, woof. It was so loud. You mean like the ones in Chubby Cherub, right? I can't quite tell by her reaction whether she believes me or not. Well, I guess you could describe it that way. I don't remember anything like that, though. Neither do you, right, Kohaku? I suppose not. I'm sorry, Shiki-san, but I don't think that happened. That settles it, then. Don't you think it's also possible that Nissan was simply dreaming of a dog barking at him? Ugh. Now that both of them have denied it, I'm no longer sure about it myself. Thinking back on it, it doesn't make any sense that I'd be able to hear howling. There weren't any dogs outside, and the street... I'm pretty sure there was nobody in the street. I'm starting to believe what they said is true. Maybe it really was a dream. I'm sure your bad dreams are just a side effect of not being used to the mansion yet. Well, if the wild dogs continue to bark at night, perhaps we should get a ferocious guard dog of our own. A sadistic smile plays across Akiha's lips. Excuse me, but it's time for me to take my leave, Nissan. Please be careful not to get attacked by dogs on your way to school. Akiha gracefully leaves the living room. After giving me a small bow, Kohaku also leaves the living room in order to see her master off. After having breakfast in the dining room, I go out to the lobby. Hisui trails after me, carrying my bag. I told her I was capable of handling my own bag, but she insisted on carrying it, at least as far as the door. I seem to have a weak spot for not only Akiha, but for Hisui as well. On second thought, it would be more accurate to say that I have a soft spot. Wait, what? A weak spot, okay. It would be more accurate to say that I have a soft spot for Hisui. I end up losing to Akiha because everything she says is correct, and so I can't come up with any valid counter-arguments. It also doesn't help that Tohno Akiha simply outranks Tohno Shiki. But Hisui is the complete opposite. I'm technically in a position of power over her, but I don't think I can actually wield that power to my advantage. I don't know why. When she stares at me, I feel like listening to whatever she has to say. Shiki-san! Shiki-san, please wait a minute! Kohaku-san comes rushing down from the second floor, with a patter of footsteps. Hey, Oren, what's up? Hisui steps aside as soon as Kohaku-san arrives. Wait, I thought you were with Akiha. Akiha-sama's being taken to school by car. I stayed behind because I needed to deliver something to you. A delivery? For me? Yes! Yesterday I received a package from the Arima family. Kohaku-san gives me a wide grin. Huh? I brought all my stuff with me, though. Everything I used over there originally belonged to the Arima family. The only things that belong to me are the clothes on my back. Are you sure? Here's the package that was delivered. Kohaku-san hands me a thin wooden box, about 20 centimeters long. It doesn't weigh much. Kohaku-san, I've never seen this before. I believe this was one of your father's belongings. Apparently, he left it to you in his will. My father left this to me? It's not really sinking in. Why would Tohno Makihisa, the man who kicked me out of this mansion 7 years ago, leave me behind a parting gift? Well, whatever. Kohaku-san, can you take this to my room? Kohaku-san is staring intently at the wooden box. She's acting like a child with her heart set on a toy. Stare. No, she is a child. Okay, I get it. You want to know what's inside, don't you? No, not at all. Just a little curious to see what kind of gift it is. No, you're more than just a little curious, maid-san. All right, I'll open it. Ready? Open. The wooden box opens with a soft, dry sound. Inside is this thin rod, about 15 centimeters long. It's an iron rod? An unadorned iron rod that looks like it's seen regular use. My father must have really hated me if this antique is all he left in his, My father must have really hated me if this antique is all he left me as a memento. Plus, I'm pretty sure the iron bars my father worked with were thicker and more rugged. I'm not so sure, Shiki-san. This is a fruit knife, isn't it? Kohaku-san takes the iron rod out of the box. You know, the ones with blades that pop out? This looks a lot like one of those. Okay, here we go. Snap. A blade about 10 centimeters long springs out. Huh. It really is a knife. The mechanism inside is modern, but the exterior seems to be quite old. See? It has the year and era engraved on the underside here. Kohaku-san retracts the blade and hands me the knife. She's right. There are some words carved into the bottom of the grip. The character for 7, and next to it, the character for night. Ne-san, there's no era by that name. It just says Nanatsu Yoru. Wheeling around, I see that Hisui has been silently peering at the knife from behind this entire time. You surprised me. Don't scare me like that, Hisui. You don't have to look over my shoulder like that. If you want to see, here. Please excuse me. That dagger's so beautiful, I couldn't resist. I don't know if I'd use the word beautiful. If anything, the design strikes me as somewhat bland and old-fashioned. That is not true at all. I think it is an antique with a lot of history. Really? Just looks like a piece of junk to me. After hearing Hisui say that with such conviction, I'm beginning to feel the same way. Yeah. Maybe this isn't such a bad memento after all. Nanatsu Yoru. Could that be the name of this fruit knife? I don't think many people name their knives. Whatever it is. It's definitely an antique. I retract the blade and put the knife in my bag. It's a violation of the Weapons Act, but hopefully the authorities will let it slide just for today. I'll show it to Arihiko later and brag about it. Well, if he's at school, that is. Shiki-sama, are you alright for time? Crap! I better get going or I'm gonna be late. I'm off, Kohaku-san. Thanks for the delivery. No problem, says Kohaku-san, waving us off. Us? Exiting the front gate of the mansion, I notice an unusual flurry of activity. What's going on here? What's all the fuss about? About that. It appears they found some blood on the road this morning. Blood? You mean like bloodstains? Yes. There was also blood on the wall around our property. It seems that while you were asleep, the police came to inquire about what happened last night. Does that mean somebody died? No. All they found were bloodstains. The road that runs along the east side of the property. That's the area I went to check on last night. Bloodstains. Clinging splatters of crimson. There were no signs of that conspicuous color last night, at any rate. There was only black. Only the biting cold. Not even the slightest hint of the warmth of blood existed. Shiki-sama? No. It's nothing. I'll see you later. Thanks for seeing me off. Have a good day. I wish you safe travels. Hisui bows deeply. I'm only going to school, so I don't think I have that much to worry about. Still, I'm sure Hisui is just concerned about my health in her own way. Thank you. I'll try to be careful. Take care of yourself, Hisui. With a quick wave of my hand, I thank Hisui and leave the main gate. I make it to class with only a few minutes to spare before homeroom starts. I'm not used to my new route yet, so I guess I didn't leave enough time. The time for idle morning chatter is coming to a close, and most of the students have returned to their desks. With this as a backdrop. You sure arrived with plenty of time to spare, didn't you? Arihiko is about to take his seat, a dejected look on his face. It seems like he actually plans on taking class seriously today. Good morning. You don't seem all that motivated today. No, I take that back. You're actually in class for once. What's wrong? You not feeling well? Oh, I was pretty energetic up until moments ago. Raring to go, even. After all, Senpai had come to grace us with her presence. By Senpai, do you mean Seal Senpai? That's right. But, after she found out someone wasn't here, she didn't seem to be in the mood anymore, and went back to her own classroom. Why'd you have to choose today of all days to show up the last minute, Tohno? So that's what happened. If I'd known Senpai was here, I'd have come running. Sorry about that. Still, if we're lucky, we might be able to meet up with her at lunch. It's not like it was our last chance to ever see her again. Well, of course it isn't! If that was the last chance I'd ever get to see her, I'd be way too shocked to be sitting here in class. Heading for my desk, I wave an indifferent, "Oh really," in his direction. Here she comes. Here she comes, let's go! Yeah! Right as I'm sitting down, the bell rings, and Noelle-sensei enters the classroom. Hi, good morning. I'm glad to see everyone's in good shape. Wait. No. Looks like 2 students are out. Well, I suppose the seasons are changing. I wonder if they got careless and caught a cold. Noelle-sensei starts taking attendance. 1 male student and 1 female student are absent. As I'm trying to remember who those 2 empty seats belong to... You can't stop. Stop that. You can't stop. Don't do that. I happen to make eye contact with her. I look away, flustered. It's strange. I'm sure it's just my imagination. But I feel as though Noelle-sensei spends a lot of time looking in my direction. Okay. Hold on a minute. Morning classes are over, and now it's time for lunch. Now, where should I have lunch? Classroom. I'll eat in the classroom. However, I just don't have an appetite today. If I force myself to eat when I'm feeling this way, I'll just end up being sick later. So I think I'm better off just using this time to rest. Hey, Tohno! Come on, let's get some food! Any appetite I may have had disappears the second I see this ugly mug. That settles it. I'll skip lunch today. Thanks a lot for the excuse, Arihiko. Sorry. I'll pass today. Go ahead without me. What the hell? You're getting more unhealthy by the day. What, does your new life as an aristocrat not suit you after all? You know, I'm not an aristocrat. Oh well, maybe you're right. If I'm not considered an aristocrat, then who is? The bathrooms in the mansion are huge, Arihiko. They're bigger than your room. And more expensive, too. Seriously? I'd never be able to feel comfortable living like that. I take back my earlier comment. It's a relief to hear a response like that. Thank you, Arihiko. I feel a little better after hearing something that I can agree with so wholeheartedly. Well, it's not just the building that's hard to adjust to. Even if I wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, they grouse about me being late, and curfew's at 8 o'clock in the evening. To make matters worse, if I spend the night somewhere without prior permission, I'll get interrogated afterward. It's like living in a prison, right? Oh, hey, that doesn't sound too bad. I've got nothing for praise for that sort of micromanagement. Young people need more structure in their lives. If they spend all their time messing around, they'll never become decent adults. I feel the same way. Though somehow it's more convincing coming from you. He is, after all, the ultimate proof by contradiction. Is that so? You're being awfully obedient today, Tohno. Good boy. Let me give you some sweetbread as a treat. Like I said, I don't need any food. Ignore me and just eat. Lunchtime's almost over. Really? Well, I'll be digging in then. Jesus. Arihiko clasps his hands together, and then starts to tuck into his bread. Despite his appearance, he really seems like a man who appreciates his meals. Pardon me. And then, Senpai shows up with what looks like a lunchbox in her hand. Oh, Senpai! I thought you usually ate in the cafeteria. No, I don't really have a fixed lunchtime routine. It all depends how I'm feeling on a given day. She takes her lunch out of a cute drawstring pouch. It seems to be a little on the large side for a girl. Let me guess. You managed to wake up early today and felt like making a packed lunch, right? Yes. I woke up a little before 7 this morning, which is unusual for me. Wait a minute. What are you making me say, Tohno-kun? That wasn't my intention. Senpai, are you not a morning person? Yes, the truth is, I'm pretty bad at waking up early. I have to push myself pretty hard to make it on time when I'm volunteering. My parents ran a bakery, so we always had to get up incredibly early every day. But no matter how hard I tried, I always struggled to wake up in the mornings. It drove my father mad the entire time I was growing up. What? A bakery? Arihiko and I look at each other. I bet he's also imagining Seal Senpai with an oven in her room, kneading and baking flour with her white fingers. My battle with father lasted for about 3 years, but in the end he said, I would rather do the work of 2 people than train you. Then he threw me out of the kitchen. Ever since, I've been able to be as self-indulgent as I want when I choose to wake up. Seal Senpai puffs out her chest, looking quite pleased with herself. Is that so? That's kind of surprising. You always struck me as a very capable person. Yes, I try my best not to screw up in front of you. If pressed to choose, I'd have to say I lean more towards being a clumsy person than a capable one. It's certainly possible that she's actually a bit of a klutz. I guess the fact that she does volunteer work is a bit of a giveaway. A capable individual wouldn't spend their time on something they don't stand to gain any benefit from. I see. To be honest, I prefer clumsy people. I feel like I can actually relax around them. Arihiko nods in agreement. So, I suppose a late riser such as yourself ends up eating in the cafeteria most days. Yeah, I end up eating in the cafeteria more than I'd like to admit. I still manage to make my own lunch like this every now and again, though. Not that it's anything special, just a bunch of prepared dishes. You 2 are members of the school cafeteria faction, aren't you? No, we just go when the mood takes us. My sister used to pack a lunch for me back when I was a freshman, but Tohno would always eat in the cafeteria or get bread, so I ended up just doing up whatever he did. Huh. Tohno-kun is a pretty fickle guy, isn't he? Yeah. You'll only get worn out if you go, Yeah, you'll only go out, hold on. Yeah. You'll only get worn out if you go out with the guys like him. So watch out, Senpai. Senpai agrees with Arihiko and opens the lid of her lunchbox. The contents of her round lunchbox are an even split between rice and side dishes. It's a very orthodox lunchbox, but there does seem to be a rather lot of food. Fuck me, dude. But there does seem to be rather a lot of food inside. Well then, let's eat. Is it all right if I borrow your neighbor's chair? Wait, okay, hold on. Is it all right if I borrow your neighbor's chair? An empty chair belongs to everyone. I'm sure Takeda-kun would love to have you sit in his seat. Senpai begins to eat, opting to keep her lunchbox on her lap, rather than place it on my desk. Standing diagonally across from her is Arihiko, unwrapping his second piece of bread. As I watch the two of them out of the corner of my eye, I gaze idly at the scenery out the window. Huh? Tohno-kun, aren't you gonna eat? No, I don't feel like it today. You're not eating? You're gonna get hungry, you know. It's fine. I'm more concerned with my health than my appetite. Besides, I'm not so weak that I can't handle skipping lunch. Wow, that's amazing! I can't function if I skip even a single meal. I get so hungry that I just collapse. It's a little embarrassing. Even though I eat a lot more than most people, I still get hungry again right away. Don't even worry about it. You're a lot more developed than other girls. Just fucking says that shit, huh? It's one of the laws of nature that the larger they get, the less fuel efficient you can be. I'm not sure how I feel about Arihiko's statement, but he handled the situation well. Since she is still growing, I want her to continue to eat and reach her full potential. I can't tell from Senpai's expression whether she's ashamed or embarrassed by Arihiko's words. But Tohno-kun, are you sure you'll be okay if you skip lunch? It's fine, it's fine. It's not unusual for me to go all day without eating anything. I even ate breakfast today, so I'll be fine until evening. I don't think that's a good idea. You'll ruin your body if you live like that. Don't worry. There are people who check up on me. My doctor has actually warned me about not to put on any weight. So it's honestly in my best interest if I skip a meal every now and again. I'd like to get stronger, but keeping my weight under control takes priority. I see. Even boys think about dieting, don't they? Senpai looks at me a little sheepishly for some reason. Then, after pausing to think for a moment, closes the lid of her lunchbox. I just remembered an errand I have to run, so if you'll excuse me. Don't mind me. In fact, I'd rather you forgot about today's conversation. After quickly cleaning up, Senpai rushes out of the room like the wind. Yep, cute. Arihiko nods his head in satisfaction, as though moved by something he just saw. Okay. As much as I would like to continue because I want to see Noelle more, we are going to stop Tsukihime for today. So, if you're still watching the stream, please stick around because we're not done yet. But if you're watching the VOD, thank you for making it this far. Please follow my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/BerserkChip. That's BerserkChip with 2 P's because I forgot the password to the previous account. Follow me on YouTube, or subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/BerserkChip, where I post VODs from my Twitch and other like fun video game and fighting game content. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/BerserkChip, where I post highlights, schedule updates, combos, memes, all kinds of funny stuff. That's where everybody mostly follows me, I guess. So, if you're watching the VOD, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time